Memory doesn't wait for the right moment. It doesn't check whether you're ready. It doesn't ask whether you're in a quiet space or whether you've had enough time to settle. It arrives on its own, often in the middle of something ordinary. This episode is about that experience, about what it's like when memory shows up unexpectedly after something has changed, and how it moves through daily life without following a plan. Memory is often imagined as something we visit intentionally, something we sit with, reflect on, or return to on purpose. But after loss or major change, memory behaves differently. It moves independently. It surfaces without warning, triggered by things that don't seem important until they suddenly are. A sound, a smell, a phrase someone uses without thinking. And suddenly, something familiar is present again, not fully, not clearly, but enough to be felt. Sometimes memory arrives as an image. Other times it arrives as a sensation, a tightening in the chest, a warmth, a heaviness that doesn't have a clear story attached to it. You may not even know exactly what you're remembering, only that something from another time has made itself known. This can be disorienting. One moment you're in the present, moving through your day, and the next moment you're carrying something from somewhere else, while the world around you continues as if nothing happened. There's often confusion about why memory appears when it does. Why now? Why during this moment? Why when you were finally feeling okay? It can feel intrusive, as if memory is interrupting something you were trying to do. But memory isn't trying to pull you backward. It's responding to association, not intention. After loss, the world is full of reminders. Not obvious ones, but subtle overlaps. Similar light, similar timing, familiar emotional tones. Memory responds to these quietly, without explanation. Sometimes memory arrives gently. It brings a sense of closeness or warmth. Other times it arrives with weight, with the awareness of absence, with the recognition that something is no longer available in the way it once was. Both forms are part of the same process. Memory doesn't always bring sadness. Sometimes it brings confusion, a sense of connection followed by distance, a moment of familiarity that fades quickly, leaving you slightly unsettled. This can make you hesitant to engage fully with life. You may find yourself guarding against memory, trying to avoid anything that might trigger it, not because you're afraid of feeling, but because you're tired of being caught off guard. That reaction makes sense. Memory can feel unpredictable, and unpredictability takes energy. There's often an urge to manage memory when this happens, to distract yourself, to push it away, to control when and how it appears. But memory doesn't need to be controlled in order to soften. It needs room. That doesn't mean you need to sit with memory intentionally. It doesn't mean you need to analyze it or give it meaning. It simply means not fighting it when it arrives. Memory doesn't ask you to relive the past. It doesn't ask you to go back. It just reminds you that something mattered, that something was real, that something left an imprint. Memory often arrives in waves. Some days it barely appears at all. Other days it shows up repeatedly, in small ways that accumulate. This doesn't mean grief is intensifying. It means memory is active. Memory tends to surface more when life becomes quieter, when there's less distraction, when routines slow down enough for associations to form. This can feel like regression, as if you're moving backward, but it isn't. It's often a sign that there's enough stability for memory to be felt. Memory also changes over time. Early on, it may feel sharp and immediate. Later, it may feel distant or softened. And sometimes, unexpectedly, it becomes vivid again. There is no final version of memory and no correct trajectory. Some memories repeat. The same moment, the same detail. This isn't your mind being stuck. It's your mind returning to something emotionally unfinished, not to solve it, but to acknowledge it. That unfinished quality doesn't require resolution. It doesn't require closure. It requires allowance. You don't need to extract meaning from memory. You don't need to turn it into insight. You don't need to understand why this memory appears instead of another. It's enough to notice it and let it pass when it does. Memory doesn't stay forever, even when it feels intense. It moves. It always does. Sometimes memory arrives and leaves you quiet. Other times it arrives and life continues around it. You may still respond to messages, finish tasks, or move forward with your day. That doesn't mean memory didn't matter. It means life held it. There can be guilt when memory appears during moments of ease. You laugh, and then you remember. You feel okay, and then something surfaces. That doesn't mean joy is inappropriate, and it doesn't mean memory is a problem. Memory and ease can exist at the same time. Remembering doesn't mean you're stuck. Forgetting doesn't mean you've let go. Memory moves according to its own rhythm, independent of intention. This season doesn't ask you to revisit the past deliberately. It simply acknowledges that the past visits sometimes, not to interrupt life, but to remain included in it. Memory is not a setback. It's part of how love and loss remain present without requiring attention. If you're listening to this and memory has been arriving unexpectedly, you don't need to stop it. You don't need to invite it either. You can let it come and let it go without commentary. You're not required to make sense of it. You're not required to carry it alone. This episode doesn't ask you to hold on to memory or to release it. It simply stays with how memory behaves when life continues alongside it. If this feels familiar, you're not alone in it. And if these reflections help memory feel a little less disruptive, you're welcome to stay. Liking the video helps it reach others who may be navigating memory quietly. And if you want to keep a steady space like this nearby as the season unfolds, you can subscribe, not for answers, but for continuity. If someone you care about has been caught off guard by memory after loss, you're welcome to share this with them, only if it feels right. Memory doesn't pull you backward. It passes through, briefly, as life continues forward. Both can exist at the same time.